Hi everybody, John here from All Miniatures Great and Small, and I've got Jake with me in the studio, and we're going to be having a discussion about a recent Flames of War event we attended. We attended Shifting Sands 2018, and this year it was a 2-day mid-war event using version 4 of Flames of War. I brought my American list, and Jake, you brought German Panzer III Company?
Yeah.
So we were on opposite sides, but we didn't get to face each other, which
Unfortunately.
it was something of a tradition. I guess it's broken.
Yeah, we did it a couple of tournaments, so that was kind of sad we missed it this time.
But we're going to have a battle report, and we're going to have a matchup with both of our tournament armies against each other. So we're going to have that father-son battle for you guys right here on the channel. We'll see who comes out on top. Now, Shifting Sands has been going on, I think, since 2012. It's always a themed event, so it's always, there's no blue on blue. It has a campaign element to it, but at its core, it's a tournament. And you just face the historical opponent, which is nice. As a result, you've got your list building. You don't have to build your list to face all comers. As an American, I know I'm not going to be fighting British, for example, or you don't have to worry about facing Tiger tanks, so you don't have to have an answer for that. So it lets you build your army a little bit more historically. Now, I think the Germans were a little bit more handicapped in that regard because you had to plan for the Americans and the British, which can do some
And
crazy
I'd love fighting a Tiger with an 88.
The 88 that would be scary for a Tiger. Where's that captured 88 card for the American Battlefront? That's what I want to know. So we're going to tell you about the tournament, what the final scores were in a minute, but first I'm just going to show you a little video of the tournament itself while I was there. All I did was I captured a few, like the beginning and ends of my games, a couple of games I missed, just to give you an idea of what it was like there. So that portion lasts for a few minutes. But before then, we're going to talk about our lists and what we brought. So as we're talking, I'll pop up the list here on the screen so you guys can see it. Now, Jake, you brought a Panzer III list. What was your thinking as far as units that you brought?
Honestly, I feel like the Germans are pretty just restricted in what they can take, so the choices for me, at least, were really obvious. Like, I didn't play test anything before I made the list, and I still probably wouldn't change it, maybe except for the Stukas. The Stukas are the biggest wild card, I think, in the game. Like, 2 games in the tournament, they never even showed up. 1 game in the tournament, they came down and killed 3 Shermans. So you just never know what they're going to do, which is pretty interesting. But everything else I feel like is, I don't know, almost an obvious choice. Like a single 88. At the tournament, I saw a lot of 88s. Not a lot of people brought just 1. Some people brought 2. One person brought 4.
Yeah, I faced a 488 list in 1 platoon.
Yeah. I really like the single 88. I think it's a go-to because they never have to take a morale check, which I think is crucial for them. And it's 6 points, so it's not a huge... You're not spending a ton of points into it, and it makes your opponent deploy completely differently just because of that single 88 around, which is pretty nice. And it helped a lot for deployment in all of my games.
Well, it's got a 40-inch range, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's nothing the Allies have that can really outrange it.
Yeah.
And so it really is a great area denial.
Yeah.
Now, once the Allies manage to range in on it, though, its days are numbered. But
yeah, the Allies, I was impressed by just the amount of mortars, like especially Americans, like motor platoons and just regular artillery. Single bombardments, 1 mortar team was killing my 88 every now and then, which was kind of driving me nuts. But that's just the power the Allies have, right? I also took 25-pounders, which I actually saw a lot of captured 25-pounders for the Germans. I don't know if you saw that at all.
So why did you go with 25-pounders instead of German 105s?
Because I take them mainly as AT guns, because I think they're one of the best AT guns. They get 2 shots, strength 9, and a 3+ firepower, which is pretty terrifying. So I normally deploy my guns a little bit farther up and have my tanks near them to be supporting. Yeah, their artillery is helpful, but nowhere near as helpful as just shooting their main gun. It's a 24-inch range, which in mid-war, a lot of stuff has 24-inch range, so they have to come to you if they want to hit your guns.
Yeah. And then you took Martyrs, which are a no-brainer, I think.
Yeah, Martyrs are an auto-include. I saw them everywhere. They're so cheap. Honestly, I didn't really use mine a whole lot just because they were targeted right off the bat. But it's the same thing where the 88 is. It changes how your opponent deploys drastically. I also took 5 Panzer IIs, which I didn't see a whole lot of. I think this is a great unit, purely because there's not a whole lot of choices. It was either them or a unit of infantry, but unfortunately for the Germans, it's 10 points for 7 stands of infantry, or I could spend that 10 points and get 5 tanks that can spearhead.
Yeah, I think the Panzer II is one of the better units in the German list.
Yeah, and it also goes towards my formation. So for me, that was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And I just made him a big unit because purely for formation reasons, only half of my army's in my formation, whereas, especially the Americans I noticed at the tournament, it was almost impossible to break formations.
What was your worst performing unit, controversial unit you might consider getting?
The Stukas.
The Stukas?
Yeah, they're so, like, in that game where I killed the Shermans, it was great that they came down, but I was already going to kill them anyway. Like, it was just kind of, oh, they happened to work that one time. But all of my other games, they basically did nothing, which is kind of a bummer. But it was funny, we had a practice game of this matchup before our tournament just to get the rules ready for us. And my Stukas killed, like, over 30 points of your army. And it's funny, the reason my dad took these 2 anti-aircraft guns was because of that game. But they did absolutely nothing throughout the entire tournament. It was pretty sad.
Yeah. All right, and then my list, if you saw my list building video, I've already kind of discussed my list and some of the thoughts into getting it, what units I took in it. But just to go over that again real quickly, I took a Lee company, and I tried to max out my core formation for morale purposes. So I had a platoon of Lees, a platoon of Stuarts, armored recon, armored mortars, and the T-30 assault guns. All of that's core platoons. And since 2 of those are artillery, they're going to be hanging back. It's going to be very hard for Germans to break my formation, particularly when I haven't support things like M10s, which they're going to be gunning for. They're going to want to kill those first. My armored mortars, anti-aircraft, those are in support as well. So overall, my thought going into it was I had 2 units of artillery, so I'm going to screen off or smoke the 88s, the long-range mortars, until I could deal with them with things like air power and stuff like that. And then, and when we come back after the video, we'll get into tactics and if that really panned out or not. But overall, I was pretty pleased with my army. So if you guys hang on and just watch this video of us at the tournament, we'll be back in a minute and talk about the results. Hey everyone, John here from All Miniatures Great and Small, and I'm here in Mesa at the Charles Luster Building for Shifting Sands 2018. We're going to be playing Flames of War for 2 days, Saturday and Sunday event. Come on inside and we'll check it out. Okay, so this is round 1. We are playing Annihilation, so no objectives on the board. I'm playing Tom and his Italian Rifle Company, which is a ton of infantry, artillery, and some tanks, planes, a little bit of everything. We are all deployed, getting ready for turn 1. I have the first turn. We'll be back after the game. All right, so round 1 is over, and it is a draw, so it is 3-1 for the Americans. I managed to knock out 4 platoons, some Italian tanks there, some here, light tanks, and 88s are gone, but I just didn't have time to take out the infantry in our time limit. Otherwise, pretty good, pretty happy with my units and how they performed. Planes did nothing, but that's what I expected them to do, so no big shock there. So, on to round 2, and I've got a whopping 3 points. Okay, so that was defending and breakthrough against the German commander. It was a hard-fought game. I lost 2 units, but managed to hold the line. So that is it. Thank you. Okay, start of round 3. We are playing Dustup, and I'm playing my friend Sean and his beautifully painted DAC force. He is defending over here. I am defending over here. He has a tiger in reserve. I'm kind of frightened of tigers, but I have my M10s in reserve, so I have a good counter. But we were able to use Spearhead, so we'll see what happens. So. Alright, so this is game 4. Sorry guys, I forgot to film a clip before we started. Basically we're playing free-for-all against Sean and his beautiful German army. It was all good luck for me and bad luck for Sean. I got the first turn and really took advantage of it, lit up a lot of stuff. The final score was 7-2. I lost my AA and Stewards. Stewards died again. Air Power bailed out. Oh no, did they kill a martyr, Sean? Or did they bail it out?
They killed a martyr.
They killed 1 martyr, so still not getting their points back, but at least they showed up this turn. So there you go, that's game 4. Alright, so this is game 5, and we're playing the mission Rearguard. I am attacking a German panzer company with 4 88s in ambush. So I gotta get across this wide open desert and get an objective that's either over there or alright, so there you go. That was a view of Shifting Sands and what it was like on the day. We had 18 people playing after a couple of last-minute drops. Overall, there were 8 German players and 1 Italian player, and I think there were 5 Americans, 3 British, and 1 mixed formation with British and Americans. So, but results-wise, I did pretty well. I got 3rd place. I tied for 3rd place with a total of 26 points.
Yeah, you did really well.
How did you do?
I placed somewhere in the middle. I don't know my placing exactly, but it wasn't good. it was probably the worst I think I've ever done at a tournament.
Well, so let's talk about my games first, since I showed those on the video. Just to kind of go over the missions we played Annihilation was the first one. And Annihilation is the mission with no objectives. There's no objectives on the board. It's the very first mission in the rulebook.
Very different.
And the reason why the tournament organizer took it is there's a lot of new players to version 4, and he kind of wanted to have an easy, simpler mission for the first mission. The only way you can win that mission, though, is breaking your opponent's company. So right off the bat, some lists were at a disadvantage and some lists were at an advantage depending on their formation. Because in a normal game of Flames of War, you can win 2 different ways. You can win by the objectives, or you can break the enemy's formation. But in Annihilation, you can only win by breaking the enemy's formation. I drew Tom, who had his Italian army, which was a huge Italian rifle company with tons of infantry, anti-tank guns, artillery, lots of little tanks. And in 2.5 hours, I did really well. I managed to destroy all his tanks, knock out his 88, knock out some guns, but I just didn't have time to roll up the infantry in that amount of time. So it turned out to be a 3-1 draw, in essence, so I picked up 3 points in that first one. Do you remember in your game of Annihilation who you played? Or
yeah, I played Tony, and he had a British. In his lists, what stuck out, he had 10 25-pounders.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So 2 units of 4? And
yeah, I had 2 units of 4, 1 unit of 2. And right when we were deploying, the first thing I noticed is he started spreading out. So I just measured literally all of my stuff 24 inches away, because I know that gun can't move. so I just stayed far away. And yeah, I wasn't gonna break his stuff anytime soon, really, unless he charged me. Which towards the end of the mission, I was still doing well. Most of my formation was still alive, and all I had to kill was 2 tanks by the end, but we timed out. So we both tied at a 3-3.
3-3.
Yeah.
So, and for those ties, just for you guys that don't know, a tie, you take the loser column for points for both players, basically. So to get 3 points, you have to, your opponent had to have lost at least 2 platoons.
Yeah.
Oh no, 3 platoons.
Yeah.
3 platoons. So, so that's pretty good. So first round, and I think a lot of people were like that.
Yeah, like 75% of the results were ties.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
And the only folks that won were those that faced against formations that were really brittle, just had a couple of core platoons in their formation, and once those are gone, the formation folds, and it's game over. So that, oh, I've got to say, for Annihilation, my air power did nothing. In the tournament, there was an event that happened, like a strategic event. So not only do the planes come in on a 4+, but my opponent had a card to deny my airplanes automatically the first time they came in successfully. So he played that card, so it was even harder for planes to get in, and they really didn't do anything. I think they tried to drop a bomb on some 88s and didn't do anything. All right, so the next mission was Breakthrough. So in Breakthrough, I played the German general, and I was the defender. So we rolled off, and I was the defender. The German list I was facing was infantry, and so he was already kind of at somewhat of a disadvantage, and it really went well for me. My M10s came in from reserve, my airplanes killed a few martyrs, so my infantry held the objectives in the middle even after a couple of assaults. They even ran out and captured some guns in assault, and the German ambush around the back side of me, the reinforcements coming in, really weren't able to do anything. So that was a really good battle for me, and I won that one 7-2 was the ultimate outcome. How was your Breakthrough game?
My Breakthrough game, which you'll see some pictures on the screen here, it was pretty brutal for me. The table really got me. There's a castle on the table, and then on one side, Mark, who you've seen on the channel before, I got to play him, which was really great. But on one side, he deployed his 25-pounders and 17-pounders. So obviously, I'm not going to take my tank company that way, because I would shoot, I wouldn't hit anything because he's gone to ground and concealed, and then he would unload and slaughter half my army in probably one turn. So I went southeast around to go to the objectives. So my whole army moved as fast as they could around that corner, but they're all bunched in one little corner. Thankfully, artillery didn't really do anything, even though like he almost hit every tank. But his Hurricanes came down first turn and killed all my martyrs. He blew up 2 of them, bailed 1. He failed to get back in, failed to reroll with the commander, made the morale check, failed to reroll, and left. So the martyrs were gone just from the Hurricanes, turn 1. And then it just kept going south from there. He had 3 6-pounders in the woods, and I could not kill these things. I got them down to 1, and they're fearless. I didn't know they were fearless, which is a great unit. So they kept making their morale. I sent in 3 Panzer IIs were left at the time. I sent them into the woods, and they lost in close combat with these 6-pounders. So after all that, I just backed myself up against the castle wall. And unfortunately, I wanted his reserves to slowly trickle in. That's what I was hoping for, to get 1 at a time so I could deal with them. Because British Crusaders are pretty easy to kill, I discovered. And all of his reserves came in at the same time. So he rolled 3 dice, and he got all 3 of them. So all of a sudden, 9 tanks showed up after I finally killed that 1 6-pounder. And after that, I didn't really have much of an army left, unfortunately.
So what was your score for that game?
I actually got the best I could losing, so I got 3 points. I forget what he got.
He would get 6.
He would get 6,
yeah.
yeah. So I got 3 points, and it was purely just because breaking Crusaders is really easy. Their morale's like a 5-up. So I knew I was going to lose, so at that point I was just going Crusaders everywhere.
Yeah, they tend to run pretty good. All right, so the third game was Dustup. And for me, I played Sean, who has been on our channel before, and his army. And it was a good battle. So Dustup is kind of a meeting engagement. No one's really the attacker versus the defender, but since I had an armored company and he was another German infantry company, I ended up pretty much trying to attack him before his Tiger came in from reserves. And I did really well. That was another case of just not having enough time. If you have all the time in the world, you can pick it away at a rifle company, stand off, take out the guns, move up, take out the shorter range guns, then shoot the infantry till you can safely assault them and get the objective. But when you have 2.5 hours, you either play timidly, you hang back and both people get a draw, or you throw yourself at the enemy and hope something happens and you break the formation before the time limit runs out. So in that, it was pretty good. I was on the objective for a couple of turns, but he kept making his morale, and it was an exciting game, but it turned out to be a draw. He came nowhere near my objectives. So it was 3-3. We just tore each other up, but I couldn't really make anything happen. So at the end of day one, there were 3 rounds on day one, I had 13 tournament points. Now, how was your Dustup?
My Dustup went extremely well. The list I fought wasn't the strongest list. It was something like 5 Shermans, a unit of 5 Stuarts, another unit of 5 Stuarts, 4 M10s, and then you can't really buy much after that.
No.
That's almost 100 points. I forget, maybe a little bit of artillery, but on the board he had his Shermans and some Stuarts. And my first turn, I just deployed very defensively, so I put all of my big, scary AT guns on my objective, and then I had my Panzer IIs to do a little cheeky swing around and kind of distract his Stuarts. But my first turn was pretty brutal. Like, my martyrs were in the woods, and they immediately take out 3 Stuarts. So the Stuarts run away to go save their objective, but by the time my Panzers were hull down, blasting away the Stuarts. So I almost went up and took the objective, and in a last mad dash, my opponent brought around his other Stuarts. These are conscript Stuarts, by the way. He brought them around the corner, right in front of all of my AT guns. He's gonna take the objective if he survives, but that's why I set up everything I had there. And I just blew them away. I shot 4 25-pounders at short range, an 88, and then whatever martyr could hit them.
Hits on 2s.
Yeah, and I was hitting him on 2s, and I'm going through everything, so
yeah.
We wasted that unit. And from that point on, I think I broke his formation, actually, right after I killed those Stuarts.
So what was your score?
I got an 8-1 on that one,
so
nice. That was a full win for me.
So you, after turn 1, you had what?
Or after day one?
After day 1.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 points.
14 points. So after day 1, we could have, if the draw was right.
Yeah, we were really excited. We thought we would play each other because we were only 1 point off, but the next day proved differently.
So day 1 was wrapped up, and it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot about my army and
same.
how it worked, and things that didn't work and things that did work. By turn 3, I was finding that
Game 3.
Game 3. Game 3. By game 3, I was finding my strategy of smoke working really well. So I have 2 batteries that can fire smoke, mortars and the 75mm assault guns. So that's 2 turns of screening off 88s and 25-pounders and whatever else I was facing, and really letting me annihilate, like hiding one part of the army and annihilating the other part, so that then I can, when the smoke was gone, I could deal with that. And that really worked, especially like in Dustup. He had martyrs way in the backfield, and smoke kept them.
Yeah, you just set up the line.
They didn't shoot until like turn 3 or 4, and by that time the Panzers were already almost destroyed, and it really worked well. So I was learning that, and I already had an idea that would work, but it really, to see it work was good. Anything pan out for you? You were expecting or not expecting after day 1?
Day 1 just went pretty normal, except for that second game where I just went around that castle and got annihilated. That was pretty rough. But other than that, no, there were no real surprises. I fought 2 British lists, and then the third one was an American one. It just wasn't a very good American one, so nothing particularly was surprising me. Like, I know what a Sherman does, and they're so expensive, right? They're easy to take out with a martyr. So no surprises really for day 1 for me.
All right. So day 2, we go in, and the mission is free for all. So it's pretty basic scenario. Everything is on the table. I play a nice gentleman. I forget his name. Sean. Another Sean.
Different Sean.
And he had a German Panzer company, not too dissimilar from yours. And really the game was kind of decided. He's somewhat of a newer player, I think, at least to version 4. And he deployed pretty far forward, and I won the roll-off for first turn. And I was able to really make him pay. I knocked out one Panzer platoon. I tore up some anti-tank guns. So by turn 1, he was already kind of behind the 8 ball and trying to make up ground, and he never could. At the last round of the game, he did pick off a couple of my units. He picked off, I think, my Stuarts. I should say my Stuarts all through the event. They did well, but they died. I think they wiped out 4 out of 5 games. He killed my Stuarts, which made a kamikaze run on the Martyrs to try to knock them out, but failed. And he took out, I think that was the only unit he took out. So I won that game 7-2, just one shy of max points for that game, pretty handily. And in that game, my airplanes did actually come in. They shot up the Martyrs a couple times. I think they destroyed one, but they really didn't get their points back in that battle. So how about you? Your free-for-all?
Yeah, so I did free-for-all. I'm not the biggest fan of just free-for-all in general because it almost forces you to sit back and never go anywhere, because if you expose yourself, you're probably going to lose. The odds just really aren't in your favor most of the time. But I fought probably, I think, the most competitive American list I saw there, and it was against Art, and he had 2 formations, 1 infantry and 1 tank, which I think is the way to go. So I knew immediately after he set up I wasn't going to win, because he had these huge infantry platoons dug in on both objectives, just not moving. He had 4 units of artillery, like all pretty small units, but 4 nonetheless, so that's a ton of smoke. That's one of the best parts about Americans, it's so easy just to get smoke for them. And then he had Lees, I think it was like 3 units of Lees, or maybe 4, and some anti-aircraft guns. And so I deployed very defensively. The table was a little rough on me again because it was so cluttered. Line of sight was a big issue. You couldn't really see like 10 inches without a building being in the way or something in the way. So I had this issue where my army's very small and elite, and one side can't really support the other. I couldn't even drive to the other side because there was so much terrain in the way. So that was a little hard. So he ended up attacking one of my flanks with all of his tanks super hard. And I rolled so poorly. By the end of the game, we ended turn 6, so it's not like all my units died turn 1. Like, I was hiding in the woods and pulling back slowly. I killed 1 Lee and 2 Jeeps. That was all I killed that game. I don't know what I did to the dice gods, but it was terrible.
So that was a 8-1 for...
Yeah, I lost horribly. It was brutal, but it was probably honestly one of the most fun games I had, just because Art's great to play against. But yeah, it was rough.
And I like playing on like heavy terrain because it does open up more tactics. But you're right, free-for-all, especially in a tournament, kind of way.
Yeah.
It's 2 armies facing each other, and the first guy that makes an offensive move, if he gets smashed, then he's at a disadvantage for the rest of the game. But if you just sit back waiting for the other guy to kind of make the first move, you both draw, and it can really screw up your points.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't like Annihilation that much. It's because it's basically free for all, but without the objectives, and all we did was sit back and shoot at each other. We made it to turn 14 because that's all we did the whole game. Because whoever moves first, the other person's going to smoke half of their army, and then, like you said before, blow away that other half easy, and the odds are really in the defender's favor.
Annihilating, yeah. Especially when we're playing a desert tournament where a lot of the tables were open.
Yeah.
Now you played on that super dense table, but
yeah,
that just compounds the problem when it's open and everyone can kind of shoot at everything.
Yeah, I'd say probably 75% of the tables were fairly open.
All right, so that last mission is Rearguard, which totally screwed. Let's talk about your Rearguard first.
My Rearguard.
It was against Win.
Oh yes, Win. Yeah, he was great to play. That mission was interesting. If you start reading the rules for it, it's way in the defender's favor. You're like, crap, I wish I was the defender because it's amazing. But the trick is that they have to pull away units at a certain turn.
Yeah, they're using the strategic withdrawal rule.
Yeah, but other than that, they have every advantage. They can put down 4 minefields, they have an ambush. So when I played Win, he put his 4 minefields on one objective, and how the terrain was set up, I literally couldn't get to it from any point whatsoever without going through a minefield. So I was like, okay, I'm not going there. That's pretty obvious. So I put everything lined up the other direction. The board was fairly open, so it was all set for me. I started off really well. There's one infantry platoon holding an objective, and that's it. And my whole army's bearing down on it. So I was like, oh, I totally got this. And Wynn is making saves like crazy for his infantry. I couldn't kill them at all. So I get a little bit closer, turn 1 or 2. I assault with the Panzer IIs because he's pinned and he's got 3 bazooka teams. So I was like, okay, he's hitting me on 5s. Odds are he's going to blow up 1. Maybe bail a second one at worst, right? So it won't be too bad. So I charge in, and he hits with all 3 and blows up my 3 Panzer IIs. It was brutal. So I pull back, and I start pulverizing this unit. I'm laying smoke right behind. He's got Shermans and Lees, and they're kind of running over because he actually misdeployed. Like, it was really in my favor to win. And my army was like probably 12 inches from the objective, and literally the only thing standing in my way is this one infantry platoon. It's not even upgraded. It's just like trained guys, and he couldn't fail a save. So after bombarding it with artillery and hitting it with everything, it's turn 6. Like, time has gone by, and I have to get there by turn 9, or otherwise I lose. And I took out 2 more bazooka teams. I just happened to pinpoint them out, and I took them out. I charge with the rest of my Panzer IIs. His 1 bazooka team kills 1 on the way in. I strike a team, I kill it with my Panzer II, and then his bazooka team needs a 5 to hit me in close combat, and he hits me, and he kills me. So I charge with 3 more Panzer IIIs. That 1 bazooka team, I kid you not, it was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. It kills every single one. That 1 team, by the end of it, we looked, that 1 team killed 6 tanks. 1 bazooka's team is worth 1 point. He killed 6 of my tanks. It was over like 21 points.
Well, that's a Medal of Honor recipient right
there.
there.
Yeah, and then the other 2 bazooka teams, they each killed 1 tank. So, like, it was just such bad for me. I don't know. Again, I don't know what I did to the dice gods on day 2, but it was brutal. And that's what lost me the game, is as soon as I charged, I lost half of my army, because that's half of my formation, is losing the Panzers and the Panzer IIIs and the Panzer IIs, yeah.
So what was your final score on that one?
So I got a 1, yeah. So I only got 2 points. It was so bad. I felt terrible.
So you ended up with 16, is that right?
16, yeah. It was.
Well, and in your defense, too, you played Wynn, who came in from California. He won the tournament. He had the highest point level, I think, at 29 points.
Yeah.
So you played number 1, and you played Art, who I think was number 2.
Yeah.
And Mark tied for number 3 with me.
Yeah, he played.
So you were playing very good players.
Yeah, and it was I just got the short end of the stick. Those American lists, though, that's what just hampered me a lot, was that Wynn was shooting these single battery artillery just from his motor platoons, and those were just tearing me apart. Like, they were killing 1 25-pounder. It was rough.
Yeah, the 60 mil mortar in the armored rifle.
Yeah, that's worth its weight in gold. Like, I love, if I ever did Americans, I would auto-include 1 armored rifle platoon, hands down.
All right, and then mine. So, yeah, so Rearguard, boy, I felt dumb afterwards. So I rolled, and I was the attacker, and I was on this wide open board. And my opponent had 6 platoons. He had some Panzers, and he had a huge unit, 488 platoon, and captured 25-pounders, 4 25-pounders, but just 6 units. And so we rolled. He was defending, and I totally spaced. I didn't even read or see that it was using the strategic withdraw rule.
Yeah.
So my opponent, and the way that rule works is after turn 2, if you have 6 platoons, the defender has to pull 1. And if you don't have 6 platoons, you get basically a token,
yeah.
So that and then every turn after that, if you have 6 platoons plus your tokens, you have to pull another one and you dump your tokens and so on. So my opponent should have been pulling 1 at turn 2 and 1 at turn 4, unless I killed something by then, or turn 5. And then that mission goes to turn 8, I think, before.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, before it's over, and you have to capture.
Oh, no, turn 9.
Turn 9. So I totally spaced that. So basically, it was encounter, or sorry, like a free for all.
But he has all.
But
the
he had
bonuses.
minefields, and he had his 88s, 4 88s in ambush. So I really made it a lot harder for myself than I had to. Plus, it was a wide open board. So the only terrain getting across the board was my smoke. So I played smoke and got close, and my infantry platoon assaulted his panzers 2 or 3 turns in a row before they broke, and my Lees. So it was really hard. But what I ended up doing was focusing on his panzers to try to break his company, because he didn't have very many panzers, and all the 88s and the 25-pounders, that's all support platoons. Now, my Stuarts, though, they've been dying the whole game, and they still died in this game, but they did manage to assault and destroy the 88 platoon, 488s. They assaulted them, took them out. They themselves failed morale the next turn, but that was kind of the Stuart's highlight of the battle. But I was able to knock out 2 of his 3 panzer platoons, and his formation broke. And it was just an example of a list that was very brittle. It only had 3 units in the core, and as soon as you take out 2 of them, it's game over.
Yeah, so if I were playing right, I'd just gun it for those 2 right away, regardless of anything else on the board.
So, and that's what I tried to do, but it took me like 6 or 7 turns, because I had to go around minefields and dodge an 88 ambush.
While fighting the entire full effect of the army.
So I did lose 3 or 4 platoons. I lost my Stuarts, I lost my AA, I lost my M10s to the ambush, I lost my infantry, and I lost my big platoon of Grants. But the way my army was built, even though I'd lost all my tanks almost, except for 1, I was still, I still had 3 good platoons on the board. So I won that one 6-3, and who knows, I might have done better if I'd actually read the rules. And that's totally not my opponent's fault. It's my fault for not paying attention to the rules. As I'm playing this game and setting it up, it's like, this is really imbalanced towards the defender.
It's funny when you say that too, because I remember reading it and I was thinking the exact same thing. I was like, holy cow, like this is terrible for me. But it's only, you guys have to read it carefully, because if you're reading in the book, it's only 1 line that says this special rule, and then to read all about it, you have to flip it over onto the backside.
And in my defense, it's game 5, kind of a grueling event. By turn 5, or game 5, by game 5 you're shot. But totally my fault, so I'm not complaining about my opponent at all. I should have been paying attention. And I still won, so it was all right, but made it a lot harder. And then I also picked up Best Painted. The Best Painted award, which was nice. So there's a lot of prizes. I think everyone walked away with a prize at the event, and it was really cool. So as far as what we can glean from the meta now, the Americans really shook things up.
Oh yeah.
If I remember reading right, the last mid-war nationals, German infantry lists were at the top.
Yeah, but that's before Americans
That was before Americans came in. And to be honest, the top placing German players, one game could have switched them, and they could have been in the top 3.
Yeah.
If TJ and his Germans had beaten me in game 2 instead of me being him, it would have been reversed, and we would have had Germans in there. So, but the Americans placing in the top 3 spots is very telling. 2 of those lists were infantry based. I think Art and Wynn both had armored rifle.
Well, there was a perfect mix.
Corps,
like Art had 2 formations.
Well, that's nice. With the armored rifle company, you have enough points to buy tanks.
Yeah, and with the Germans, that's just not a possibility at all. Like, that's not even a thought.
Yeah, you either go Panzer or you go...
Yeah, you don't have the points to split.
And everyone complains about those small German platoons being terrible, but the 2 top highest placing German players were infantry.
Yeah.
So it's...
what was the other one besides Sean?
Sean and TJ.
And TJ? Oh, I didn't realize he had German infantry.
Yeah. But of course, every German army is going to have martyrs. So all of them look somewhat similar, some Panzer IIIs in support, but they were infantry companies. So overall, the American list, though, seem really, really strong. And I think it's a combination of things. One is very large infantry platoons.
Yeah.
Like in my last game, my infantry platoon assaulted like 3 turns in a row. And I kept losing stands, 2 or 3 stands a turn, but I start with 12.
Yeah, that's what happened to me in my last game is, right, he has probably 12, I'd assume it would be. And I gotta kill him down to, 2 before he's even checking?
3.
Oh, 3?
3 for infantry.
Yeah, and if you have a commander there, like he was unpinning every turn, right? You keep the commander there and rerolling morale, like they're basically really invincible for a while.
Yeah, or at least you don't have to worry about it. Like a German infantry platoon or a British motor infantry.
6 and 7 stands.
You assault once, and that unit's probably shot, if not destroyed. So that there's really that's really a bonus for American lists. And I don't think an American list shouldn't have infantry. It should have at least one infantry platoon in it, if not a formation.
Oh yeah.
And the other thing is plenty of artillery. Those 60 millimeter mortars being in armored rifle platoons.
They're so good. Just the amount of artillery Americans can bring to the table, which they should because it's historical, right? But it's just brutal.
Yeah. And then on the other swing for the Americans, they have really hard hitters like M10s.
Yeah.
I don't know how M10s performed overall at the event, but my M10s were good. People were scared of them, and they're not easy to destroy like a Martyr. They have front armor 5, so they're armored from the front just as well as the lead.
Yeah, they're a solid choice.
So they are, and they have great range. They have 36-inch range, which outranges a Martyr.
Yeah, that's like the biggest deal right there. Is I can't tell you in this tournament how many times I measured range just versus a late war game. Like range was such a huge factor in everything I did, really.
Yeah, because you've got a couple of important ranges. You've got 24-inch range, which is a lot of the
standard guns.
Standard guns, yeah. And then you have 28-inch range, which things like Sherman, upgraded Panzer.
Yeah, like a long barrel.
Long barrel pen. Those go out to 28. Then you have the Martyr, which punches out to 32.
Yeah, that's why the Martyr's so good, right? Is because it has that 32-inch threat.
But now the Americans one up that, so now
yeah.
the M10s come along with 36-inch range, so they're 4 inches. They can hang 4 inches farther back from your Martyrs and make your Martyrs move forward, or that they're getting shot at.
Yeah, I think they're a very interesting choice. I think they're solid.
And the other thing too, I think M10s are a no-brainer as far as against a Sherman. Shermans and M10s are the same price. M10 I think is better in every regard except, well, it has
Top
no
armor.
HE rule.
Yeah.
Top armor, but against your dive bombers, I guess an extra armor would help. But I think M10s are the winner there.
I think they are. Yeah, I fought a lot of Shermans. I fought like 9 Shermans. And an M10 would have been way better in every case.
And I think the on the German side, what we're seeing is, one, most German lists are similar. Like a Panzer list is a Panzer list, an infantry list. They're going to have all the core units. So as an American player, I knew what I was facing every turn. Oh yeah, he might have a couple more 88s, or he might have some infantry and not as many tanks, but I knew what to expect. Whereas the German players, boy, they could Crusader spam, armored rifles.
Everything, every list was very different from what I fought.
So that's an uphill battle for the Germans, but that said, we had Germans that played really well, and you had a very tough matchup, which obviously
it was a lot of things,
tough.
yeah. But I enjoyed myself so much. This was a great tournament.
Yeah, so Shifting Sands is always good. Next year, Shifting Sands, we haven't decided a theme yet, but we will be announcing it shortly. You can check us out. We'll be announcing it on the All Miniatures Great and Small Facebook page, and also on Shifting Sands itself. The Shifting Sands has a Facebook page. And our gaming group, AZDRFOW, which is Arizona Desert Rats Flames of War, AZDRFOW, has a group as well. So if you guys are interested in logging and seeing what we're doing there, what things might be coming up, you're more than welcome to. And also, Shifting Sands is a tournament that has people come in from out of town. So if you're interested in coming in and playing, you're more than welcome to. We had guys from California. Our Las Vegas contingent bailed out at the last minute. They had some other things, but we always have people from out of state come, and we try to have a fun event and not be too competitive. I mean, some folks are competitive, and being competitive is fine, but the focus isn't on competitive. It's a campaign. It's a theme.
Yeah, it's always a theme. Like in the past, we've had Firestorm units where it would just add a platoon to your army, which can be a huge deal. And sometimes you fight someone who doesn't have that, who doesn't have an entire platoon.
Yep.
So it's definitely all about theme, but you still get that good tournament competitiveness if you are out for that sort of thing.
Yeah, and it's nice, but I think we're not super competitive. We're not tournament. We're competitive.
Yeah, we
totally
get competitive.
But we're not. It's not like a tournament. I like winning, but it's not like I have to win the tournament. But
yeah, end all be all kind of thing.
If I lose, so be it. That's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Having fun with an opponent, telling a cool story with our little plastic spacemen or army men, well, not spacemen, but little plastic army men. That's what it's about. Having fun, and that's what Shifting Sands was about. So I want to say thanks to Jacob and all the other Asderfow guys that helped get everything ready. And it was a great event. And like I said, guys, check it out. Let us know what you think down below in the comments below. Check us out on Facebook, All Miniatures Great and Small. And as always, thanks for watching and keep on wargaming.